Welcome back to On the Same Page. We are on Daf Lamed Beis Amud Aleph, 32a of Meseches Kiddushin. We are starting 5 lines from the bottom of the page where the lines get wider. Towards the end of the line it says, Amar Reb Yitzchak bar Shila Amar Reb Masna. Reb Yitzchak the son of Shila said in the name of Reb Masna, Amar Reb Chista, that Reb Chista said the following, Ha'av shem machal al kivodo, kivodo machal. If a father forgives his honor is forgiven. Meaning if a father says it's not necessary to honor me, then that works, and the child is, for that time, not obligated to honor their father. Same with the mother. Harav shemachal al kavoda, but if a rav, a rebbe, a rabbi, forgives his honor, ein kivodo machal, it is not forgiven. Even if the rav, the rebbe says, no, it's okay, you don't have to stand up for me. The halacha is, according to Rav Chista, you still have to honor him. The Rav Yosef Amar, and Rav Yosef says, afilu harav shemachal al kivodo, kivodo machal. Even if the rav, the father, the teacher, the rebbe, forgives his honor, it works. Just like it works for the father, it also works for the teacher. Shenamar, as the pasuk says, it says in Parshas Beshalach, V'Hashem holech lifneihem yomam, that Hashem went before the Jewish people in the daytime with a pillar of cloud and with fire at night. What's that? That's Hashem serving the Jewish people. Hashem is, so to speak, forgiving his honor. God is letting go of his honor and saying, I'll service you, even though you should be the one servicing me and honoring me, I will service you. So Rav Yosef says, just as we see that Hashem can forego his honor and service the people, so too a Rebbe can forego his honor and service the people, service his student, instead of having it the other way around, that the student is servicing the Rebbe. So that was Rav Yosef's proof. So Amar Rava said, Hachi hashta. He said, hold on a second. You're trying to prove it from HaKadosh Baruch Hu? From God? Hasta HaKadosh Baruch Hu alma dilehu. There, with regards to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, with regards to God, the world is His. V'Torah dilehu. And the Torah is His. Machole liyakrit. He can forgive His honor, the honor of His Torah, because it's His ultimately. However, top of the next page, but hacha Torah dilehi. But over here, is it the Rebbe's Torah that he can forgive the honor of the Torah? The reason why one would honor a Rebbe is because of the Torah that he has and that he teaches. But so his honor is really from his Torah. So can he forgive his honor, which really comes from his Torah? It's not his Torah to forgive the honor of the Torah. So that was what Rava questioned Rav Yosef. Hadar Amar Rava, but then Rava said, yes indeed, Torah dilehi, it is his Torah. Dichsiv, as the pasuk says in the first parak of Tehillim, it says, Uvitoraso yageh yomam balayla, and in his Torah he delves day and night, he speaks day and night. So his Torah, it says, referring to the person, the beginning of that pasuk, it says, Ki im b'Torah Hashem chefzo, his desire is only in the Torah of Hashem, uv'toraso yageh yomam, and in his Torah he delves, he speaks day and night. So the way that at least Rava is interpreting this verse is when it says, and in his Torah means his own. Now once he learns Torah, it becomes his own Torah, and he can forgive the honor of the Torah that's his, and therefore Rava at least no longer questions the proof of Rav Yosef, accepts the proof of Rav Yosef that a Rebbe is able to forgive his honor. The Gemara asks, Eini, is that true? That, I guess it could be, the story is going to be with Rava, so we can understand this question just to be in general. That is it true that a Talmud Chacham can forgive his honor, or is it true that Rava holds that a Talmud Chacham, a Rebbe, can forgive his honor. V'harava, but one time Rava mashki behilula divrei, he was once serving drinks at the wedding of his son. V'dale kasel Rav Papa ul Rav Huna braid Rav Yoshua. And he served a drink to Rav Papa and to Rav Huna the son of Rav Yoshua. V'kamu mekameh, and they stood up for him. So apparently they were in position to accord Rava respect. Rava was, I guess, the greater one, the Rebbe. So even though he was serving them and seemingly forgiving his honor by serving them, they still stood up for him. So they kept honoring him. But then, L'Rav Mari, L'Rav Pinchas, Braid Rav Chisda, V'lo kamu mikamei. But then he served a drink to Rav Mari and to Rav Pinchas, the son of Rav Chisda, and they did not stand up for him. So he, so to speak, forgave his honor, and they went with it. He was serving them, so they said, oh, he's serving us, he's forgiving his honor, we're not going to stand up for him. And what happened? Ikbid. Rava was makbid, he got upset. The Amar, and he said to these two rabbis who didn't stand up for him, he said, Hanu Rabbanan, v'hanu Rabbanan lav Rabbanan. He said, you guys, you rabbis are rabbis, but those rabbis are not rabbis. Meaning, you are rabbis, you don't have to stand up for me, you think. They're not rabbis, so they still stood up for me, those first two who stood up for him. So we see that even though Rava seemingly was forgiving his honor, he was serving them, he still expected them to still go and stand up for him, to honor him. He can't forgive his honor, he's telling them. Why aren't you standing up for me even though I'm serving you? Visu, and furthermore, we have another similar story. Rav Papa havamashki behilula da'abamar brei. Rav Papa was serving drinks at the wedding of Abamar, his son. Vidali le kasel Rav Yitzchak braid Rav Yehuda, and he served a drink to Rav Yitzchak, the son of Rav Yehuda. V'lo kam mikamei, and Rav Yitzchak didn't stand up for Rav Papa. So the same thing, Rav Papa is serving him, so he's seemingly forgiving his honor. And Rav Yitzchak says, okay, he's forgiving his honor, and he doesn't stand up for him. V'ikbid, and he was makbid. He was upset. Why are you not standing up for me? So we see from these two stories, the Gemara is asking, that Rava at least holds, and these opinions seem to hold, that you, even once a Rebbe forgives his honor, his kavod, there's still an expectation to honor. Otherwise, why were they makbid? Why did they get upset that the students weren't standing up for them even after they had served them, which seemingly forgiving their honor? So the Gemara says, maybe really, no, they don't have to stand up for them. But afilu hachi hidur mi'aved le ba'u. Still, they should have done some level of hidur, some level of honor, some level of respect. Rashi says, I think, to move a little bit as if you want to get up. It's like the little bump, like that. Instead, you don't stand up fully, but you give an acknowledgement. At least that they should have done. So, what the Gemara is saying is really, it's true. Once the Rebbe forgives his honor, they don't have to honor him. But even if they don't have to honor him, they should honor him at least a little bit. They should show respect. They should show some level of reverence to the Rebbe. Okay. So, at the end of the day, or at least so far, there is a machlokas, there's a dispute here, whether a Rebbe, a Rav, who forgives his honor still should be honored. The opinion of Rav Chisda was that it does not work for him to forgive his honor. The opinion of Rav Yosef was that it does work. And then the Gemara seems to say that even when it works, you should still afford them a little bit of honor. Amar Rav Ashi. Rav Ashi said, Afilu leman da'amar harav shemachal al kvodo kvodo machal. Even according to the opinion that if a Rav, a rabbi, a teacher, forgives his honor, it works. His honor is forgiving, and you don't have to honor him. Nasi shemachal al kvodo ein kvodo machal. But a nasi, the prince, the leader of the Jewish people, if he forgives his honor, it does not work. That's what Rav Ashi said. Even if you hold that it works for the Rebbe, it doesn't work for the Nasi, the leader of the Jewish people. If he forgives his honor, it is not forgiven. The Gemara asks, Meisvei, we have a contradiction though on this from a Brisa. The Brisa gives the following story. Maisa b'Rabbi Eliezer b'Rabbi Yoshua b'Rabbi Tzadok. There was a story involving Rabbi Eliezer, Rabbi Yoshua, and Rabbi Tzadok. Shahayu mesubin b'Beis Mishta b'no shel Rabbi Gamliel. They were eating at the Beis Mishta, the celebration of the son of Rabbi Gamliel. Rabbi Gamliel was the Nasi. He was the prince, he was the leader, and they were at this party, I don't know if it was a wedding or something else. And Rabbi Gamliel was standing and serving drinks. So the Nasi is forgiving his honor, and he's serving drinks, which from all these stories seems to have been the custom at your son's wedding. You go around and serve drinks. People still do that nowadays. Maybe it's from this Gemara. Nasan hakos Rabbi Eliezer v'lo natlo. So Rabbi Gamliel the Nasi went and he tried to give a cup to Rabbi Eliezer, and Rabbi Eliezer did not accept it. It's the Nasi. I'm not going to accept. You can't serve as me. You're the Nasi. Nasna Rabbi Yoshua v'kibla. But then he gave it to Rabbi Yoshua, and Rabbi Yoshua did accept it. He allowed the Nasi to serve him. He allowed the Nasi to forgive his own honor. Amar lo Rabbi Eliezer. Rabbi Eliezer turned to Rabbi Yoshua and he said, Ma zeh Yoshua. What is this, Yoshua? What are you doing? Anu Yoshvin v'Rabbi Gamliel v'Rebbe Omedu Mashkal. Ain't we're sitting, and Rabbi Gamliel, the great one, the esteemed one, is standing and serving drinks to us. How could you accept such a drink? Rabbi Eliezer said to Rabbi Yoshua. Amar lei. So Rabbi Yoshua responded, Matzinu gadol mimano sheshimesh. We find someone even greater than Rabbi Gamliel who served others. Avram, gadol adar haya. Avram Avinu, Abraham our forefather, was the gadol adar. He was the greatest of his generation. The kasuv bo, and it says about him, v'hu omed alehem, that he was standing. He had 3 guests come to his house, and he served them, and he stood over them, checking if everything's okay. So you see, even someone as great as Abraham served. So what's the big deal that Rabbi Gamliel is serving? It's okay, great people can serve. V'shema tamru kimalachei asharis nidmulo. And maybe you'll say, you can't bring a proof from Avraham Avinu. He was serving angels. So maybe you'll say they looked like angels to him and that's why he was serving them. But otherwise, it's beneath the honor of someone so great to serve. Lo nidmu lo elo l'arvim. No, he thought they were Arab travelers. Rashi says, and the proof is he made them wash their feet. Because the Arabs used to serve the dust on their feet as an idol, and so he made them wash off their feet. And we can't have Rabbi Gamliel serve us. If Avraham Avinu could serve guests, Rabbi Gamliel can serve guests. And it's not our job to turn him down. That's what Rabbi Yoshua said to Rabbi Eliezer. Amar lahem Rabbi Tzadok. Rabbi Tzadok was the third person here. He was silent up till now, and now he jumps in. He said to them, Ad masai atem manichim kvodo shamakom ve'atem oskim v'kavod abrios. Until when are you going to stop ignoring the honor of God and involving yourself in the honor of people? Meaning, forget about bringing a proof from a person like Avraham Avinu. There's an even bigger proof from the master of the world who services people. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Mashiv Ruchos. HaKadosh Baruch Hu makes the wind blow. Umala Nasim, and he makes clouds rise. Umorid Matar, and he makes rainfall. Umatzmiach Adam, and he makes the earth sprout vegetation. Ve'orech Shulchan Lifnei Kol Echad Ve'echad, and he prepares a table in front of everybody. He makes sure everybody has what to eat. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is involved in serving people. Ve'anu lo yeh Rabbi Gamliel b'Rabbi omed amashka aleinu. And Rabbi Gamliel, the esteemed Rabbi Gamliel, can't serve us. So Rabbi Tzadok said, you don't even need to bring a proof from Avraham Avinu. Bring a proof from Hashem. God serves people. So you see that it's not beneath anyone's honor to serve others, and if Rabbi Gamliel is serving us, we can accept his serving. So, but what do we see from all this? That they're saying we could accept it. That if he's willing to forgo his honor and serve, we should accept it. Nasi shemachal al kavodo, if a nasi, the prince, forgives his honor, forgoes his honor, it should be forgiven, it should be forgone. So rather, says the Gemara, I itmar, if there's anything that we could say about this, hachi itmar, this is what we should say. Amar Ravashi says, so this was Ravashi started all this off, when he said, even if you hold that if a Rebbe who forgives his honor is forgiven, but a Nasi, a prince who forgives his honor is not forgiven. Now we're going to change that up a little bit, because that doesn't fit with that brisa, with that story. There we see that a Nasi who forgives his honor is forgiven. Or foregone, it's probably a better word. If he forgoes his honor, it is foregone. So rather, says the Gemara, this is what Ravashi would have had to say. Amar Ravashi, afilu leman dabar nasi shemachal al kavodo machal. Even according to the opinion that if a nasi, if a prince forgives his honor is forgiven, like we just said from that story. However, melech shemachal al kavodo ein kavodo machal. But a king of the Jewish people who tries to forgo his honor is not forgone, it's not forgiven. Shenamar, because the verse says, Som tasim alecha melech, the pasuk in Parsha Shoftim says, you shall surely place upon yourselves a king. Shetehei emaso alecha, that his fear should be upon you. It says you should put him on you. You should place him on you. What does it mean to place a king on you? The Gemara Darshans, the Gemara learns out, it means that his fear should be upon you. And therefore, Som tasim alecha melech, therefore, if a melech tries to forgo his honor, you can't let it go, because the Torah is specifically telling you his fear should be upon you, and you shouldn't let him honor you. Okay. Continues the Gemara, speaking about honoring parents, honoring princes, honoring teachers, rebbeim, honoring kings. Now the Gemara says, Tanu Rabban, and the rabbis taught. The pasuk says, Mipnei seva takum. You should stand before seva, an elderly one. The end of that pasuk says, V'hadarta pnei zaken. And you should bring glory, you should honor the face of a zaken, of, again, simply translating elders. That's what we're going to be examining now. So it says, Mipnei seva takum. You should stand before someone who is seva, who's old. You might think that you have to honor even a zaken ashmai. What is a zaken ashmai? So Rashi thinks a zaken ashmai is a rasha, or an amaretz. But Rashi says even a rasha, a wicked zaken, someone who's wicked. Alternatively, an amaretz, someone who's ignorant. Tosfos doesn't think it could include a rasha. Says that certainly you wouldn't honor a rasha. I would never think that. It's specifically talking about somebody who's ignorant. So you have an old person, but they're empty of Torah. So that's where the word Ashma, Tosfos says, it comes from the word shamim, like empty, barren, desolate. So you might think that the Torah is requiring you to honor specifically even a elderly person who is desolate. Talmud Lomar zaken. That's why the Torah says zaken. V'hadarta pnei zaken. You should honor the face of a zaken. And what is a zaken? It means an older person by a specific type. The Gemara says ve'ein zaken el chacham. A zaken is someone who has wisdom. Shenemar asfali shivim ish miziknei Yisrael. Hashem says to Moshe, gather me 70 men from the elders of Israel. And the elders are the wise men there in that context. So the word zaken specifically refers to someone who is wise. And so It's not just any elderly person that needs to be honored, but specifically one who is wise. Rabbi Yossi HaGlili Omer, Rabbi Yossi HaGlili says, Ein zaken ela misha kana chachma. The word zaken, he says, relates to the word kone, to acquire. What did the zaken acquire? The zaken acquired chachma, wisdom. Zaken stands for zeh kana chachma. This one acquired wisdom. Shneamar, as the pasuk says, Hashem kanani reishis darko. Hashem acquired for me the first of his ways, referring to chachma, to wisdom. It's an acquisition that we see from this pasuk. Wisdom is something that one acquires, and therefore zaken is this one acquired. Acquired what? Acquired wisdom. The Gemara later is going to discuss what's the difference between these two opinions. The Tanna Kama here said that Talmud Omer zaken ain't zaken ala chacham. A zaken only refers to someone who's wise. Along comes Rabbi Yossi HaGlili and says, ein zaken ala misha kana chachma. Zaken is only one who acquired wisdom. Sounds like the same thing. What is he adding, or what is he arguing about? The Brisa continues, it says, Yachol yamon mipanav mimakom rachok. You might think that you have to stand up for this elderly person even when he's far away. Talmud Lomar, that's why the Torah says, Takum v'hadarta. It says, Mipnei seva takum. You should stand for an elderly person. V'hadarta. That is really attached to the next part of the pasuk. V'hadarta pnei zaken. You should honor, glorify the face of an older person, or a zaken, a wise person. But we say takum v'hadarta. You should mipnei seva takum. You should stand for an elderly person v'hadarta and bring them glory. And we see from that, the Gemara says that lo amarti kima el b'makom sheyesh hiddur. You only have to stand if you'll be bringing honor to them. So if they're very far away and you stand for them, then it's not at all clear that you're even honoring them. So that's not what it's talking about. Rashi says, what it's saying is only once they're within 4 amos. When they're within 4 cubits, they're close, it's clear when you stand up for them that you're standing up for them and honoring them, then this mitzvah applies. Yachol yehadrenu b'mamon. You might think that you have to glorify him, v'hadarta, even with money. You have to pay, you have to give up money even to honor this elderly person. Talmud Lomar, that's why the Torah says, Takum v'hadarta. If it connects the two, stand up and bring them honor. Ma kima shem b'chisaron. Because just like standing up for them doesn't cost you any money, you don't lose out. Af hiddur, also the requirement to give them hiddur, to give them glory, to give them honor, is shem b'chisaron, because it's only when there's no loss of money. If you lose money, you wouldn't be required to do this. Yachol yamon mipana mibeis hakisei u'mibeis hamerchatz. You might think that you have to stand up for him even when you are in the bathroom or in the merchatz or in the bathhouse. Talmud Lomar, that's why the Torah says, Takum v'hadarta, you should stand for them and glorify them. L'amar tikima el b'makom sheyesh hiddur. You only have to stand up when there will be hiddur, when there will be honor. But standing up for someone in the bathroom or in the bathhouse is not bringing them honor. Yachol yatzim einav k'misha lo ra'ahu. You might think you can close your eyes and pretend like you didn't see him. Talmud Lomar, takum v'yaresa. That's why the Torah says you should stand for him. And then the end of that pasuk says, v'yaresa mi'alokecha. And you should fear Hashem. Ani Hashem, I am Hashem. Telling you, davar hamasr l'leiv, nemar bo b'yares me'elokecha. Something that is in the heart, it says about that, and you should fear your God. Meaning, you know. You might be able to let on as if you didn't see him. You close your eyes, you're davening, you're learning, you're just looking at your phone the whole time. You might be able to pretend that you didn't see him, and therefore you don't stand up. And you might even think that's okay. He doesn't know. He's not dishonored because I didn't even see him. That's why it says, V'yaresa me'elokecha, you should fear your God. Hashem knows that you saw him, and that you are required to honor him. Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar says, Minayin lezakin shelo yatriach. How do we know that the zakin, the older person, shouldn't deliberately be matriach people, shouldn't trouble people to stand for him? He shouldn't make sure to keep walking past people so they have to keep standing up for him. How do we know? Talmud Lomar, zaken v'yaresa. Because it says, v'adarta pnei zaken, you should glorify the face of the zaken, of the elderly person, of the wise person. V'yaresa, and you should fear. But it's also talking about the zaken. The zaken should have fear of Hashem too. He shouldn't be walking around forcing people to honor him. Isi ben Yehuda says, Bipnei seva takum, you should stand for seva, you should stand for the elderly. Afilu kol seva v'mashma, any elderly person, he says. So he's saying not just a Talmud Chacham, but any older person you want you to stand up for. That's the opinion of Isi ben Yehuda, and it seems that's the halacha. Says the Gemara, so that was the brisa. That was all one brisa. Now the Gemara goes back to the beginning of the brisa. The beginning of the brisa said that you might think that you have to stand even for a zaking ashmai, which according to Rashi means even a rasha. According to Tosfos means even an amaretz, someone who's ignorant. Which, by the way, Isi ben Yehuda, who just said you should have to stand up for any elderly person, seems to hold you do have to stand up for them. And that's why Tosfos says it can't be talking about a rasha, because you wouldn't have to stand for rasha, but somebody who's an amaretz, he's desolate, he doesn't know any Torah. Okay, but you still have to stand for him according to Isi ben Yehuda. According to the first opinion, you don't. So the first opinion said you might think that you have to stand for him even if he is ashmai, even if he's desolate. Talmud Lomar, that's why it says zaken. That's why the end of the pasuk says zaken, which means someone who has chachma. Ein zaken el chacham. That means someone who's wise. And Rabbi Yossi Aglili said a zaken is misha kana chachma, someone who acquired chachma. So the Gemara asks, Rabbi Yossi Aglili, hainu Tanakama. Rabbi Yossi Aglili seems to be saying the same thing as the Tanakama, as the first opinion. They're both saying he has to be wise. What's the difference? What are they arguing about? Says the Gemara, Ika beinayu yanik v'chacham. The difference between them would be a case of a yanik, someone who's still nursing, but it means, I think, someone who's young and wise. So it's not an old person. Do you have to stand for someone who's young and wise? Tanakama savar yanik v'chacham lo. The Tanakama holds a yanik v'chacham no. The Tanakama holds a young person who's wise you don't have to stand for. You need two ingredients to deserve this honor that the Torah is saying is required. You need to be elderly, and you need to be wise. You need to be a Talmud Chacham. And Rabbi Yossi Aglili says, Afilu yanik v'chacham, even if you are young and wise, you still are afforded this honor. My time at Rabbi Yossi Aglili, what's his reasoning? He'll tell you, if you think it's like the first opinion saying that you need both. You need to be both elderly, seva, and zaking, and a chacham, and wise. Imkein, if that was so, nichtov rachmana mipnei seva zaking takum. It should say, you should stand for a seva who is also a zaking. You should put them together. The actual pasuk says, mipnei seva takum, stand for the elderly, ve'adarta pnei zaking, and bring honor to the face of a zaking, of a wise person. So Rabbi Yossi Aglili says, that doesn't sound like it's the same person, necessarily. It keeps them separate. If we were talking about one person, that you need both ingredients, old and wise, it should say, mipnei seva zaking takum. Stand before a seva zaking, an old wise person. V'adarta, and glorify him. Ma'ishna de palgin rachmar. Why does the Torah split it up? L'meimar, it's to say, dahai lav hai, v'hai lav hai, that this one is not this one, and this one is not this one. Shema Amina, and what do we learn from here? We learn from here, afilu yanik v'chacham, that you stand for a zaken, a zekana chachma, someone who has acquired wisdom, you stand for, even if they're still very young. That's the opinion of Rabbi Yossi Aglili. The Tanna Kama says, no, you need both ingredients. Why? Mishum debayu lemismach zaken v'yares. The reason why it split them up is because it had to, because it wanted to put the word zaken next to the word v'yaresa to teach me that the zaken has to have fear of God. Like we said before, the zaken has to, even a wise person or an elderly person, someone who is deserving of respect, they have to have fear of God and not go walking around forcing people to stand up for them. So it couldn't have said the way Rabbi Yossi Aglili is suggesting and said, Vipnei seva zaken takum, you should stand for a seva zaken, an old wise person, because then the word v'yaresa wouldn't be able to be attached. So I had to split it up. I had to say, Vipnei seva takum, v'adarta pnei zaken v'yaresa. In order to have the word v'yaresa, you shall fear next to the word zaken. The Tanna Kama, my taima. Now, what's the reasoning of the Tanna Kama? Meaning, why does the Tanna Kama choose their opinion over Rabbi Yossi Aglili's to say that it's two separate? It's that you need both. Meaning, at the end of the day, fine. So I had to put. It couldn't have said it the way Rabbi Yossi Aglili said it, but still, how does the Tanna Kama know that it's one person? It still says them separately. It says, if they say vatakum, stand for an old person, v'adarta b'nei zaken, honor and glorify the face of a wise person. How does the Tanna Kama know that that's one person only? And you need both ingredients. Because the Gemara says, because if it was true, like Rabbi Yossi Aglili is saying, that you only need one ingredient, or you only need wisdom, im king niftov rachmana, mipnei seva takum, it should say, stand for the elderly and glorify him. Takum v'hadarta pnei zaken. And they should have repeated the instruction, and stand and to glorify the face of a zaken, of a wise person. If in fact these were two separate people, then it should repeat the words takum v'hadarta twice. Stand and glorify this one, stand and glorify this one. And from the fact that it only said stand and glorify once, Shema mina chadhu, we learn from here that it's just one person. It's the same person. Mipnei seva takum, stand for an old person, v'adarta pnei zaken, and glorify the face, honor the face of a wise person. Says the Tanna Kama, that's all one person. Otherwise it would have repeated the instruction of takum v'hadarta, stand and glorify. It would have said it individually for the old person, individually for the wise person. Tanna Kama says, we see from here that really it's one person. It's somebody who's old and wise. That's who you have to stand and give honor to.